Well, hey there, it's Alka.
And Jen, and in this episode of the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast, we are talking about how to overcome fear of success for online entrepreneurs.
And this is huge because, in general, not just for online entrepreneurs, it's happens to us every single day in our lives, right? Depending on what we're fearful of, we react in a certain way, and that can actually sabotage or cripple us, and that way we won't actually get done what we truly need to do. But it gets worse when you're an online entrepreneur and you're actually dependent on the income that you are physically creating and making happen within your business. And if you're constantly being paralyzed and overwhelmed, that's not going to really help you make money, is it? So today is our episode is all about that, as to how, what are the situations and how could you possibly help yourself with easy stuff that you can do every day. And that way you'll slowly creep out of that that fear of success. And it's the weirdest thing, because when I said no, I don't have any fear of success, and it's I want to be successful, so I'm just gonna but I didn't realize until I took a step back and realized, what is it that I'm doing? And I go, oh yes, I do have a fear of success because of the actions that I'm taking. So we're going to cover those today and explain two situations that might be really relevant, and you can also go, oh yeah, that's true, that's me as well. I didn't realize I was doing that. So let's get started.
Yeah. So the points that we're going to be covering is, what are the situations and why are they happening possibly? And then also what you can do in those situations to reframe and get out of that fear of success feeling, because it is very scary and also very crippling, which you'll hear.
And real.
Yes, and real. Yeah. And also, as you said, that you don't think that you're going to have a fear of something that you truly, truly, really, really want. Like a lot of our students they have their goals set out and they want to achieve those goals. And myself as well, I have goals, but then as soon as you reach them, you're like, oh no, what do I do now? Because, I have to either continue doing what I'm doing and I might actually not like what I'm doing, or I'm fearful that if I don't stop doing what I'm doing, it will all go away and crumble down. So there's a whole bunch of different levels and variations of fear of success, but it's a very real thing.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned actually one of the ones that we're going to really dive into today. And the other one is just getting started, right? So even before you've achieved success, which is the one that I found the most difficult to get over. It's well, of course I want to achieve success. Why am I fearful of that?
Yeah.
And it's comes from all of the history that anyone, for example, my own history, and then you would have your history. But if you feel like you're never getting going, you're just kind of trying, procrastinating a lot, or avoiding, or doing a lot of things except what you really need to do in order to actually become successful, then you've probably got a lot of things in your past that are proving to you subconsciously that you've tried so many things and they failed, so why bother with this? Or every time you have failed and it's not been a success, there's just this overwhelming fear of the embarrassment, the worthiness, the things that are all associated with those gut feelings that happen when something doesn't work out, when all the responsibility that we take on, and how we think about ourselves in terms of even having the ability to do something in the future that it would allow us to be successful, right? Because we've got all this past stuff where it's been too hurtful to fail again. And so we don't want to fail. We don't want to hurt ourselves again. So we don't even try to be successful because we're probably going to fail. And so that's the second piece of today's topic. So these two things. So yeah, because when you're successful, that's the first one that you mentioned. So if you're fearful of recurring success, right? If you don't feel like you can do it again, and you've got imposter syndrome, or you are tired just because you thought okay, this first thing that I accomplished just took so much out of me that I just don't know if I have it in me to do it again, over and over again, maybe even next month or the month after, right? So that's the first fear, as it's truly real, right? We're always very protective of ourselves, and if it becomes such a burden with that responsibility and that unknown, then you're definitely going to be fearful of that success, because how can you repeat it? And then the second one is just even getting going, and all those things of shame and responsibility, and don't want to feel those feelings again if we fail in the future. And so please decide, and in the chat, just tell us which one of these resonates with you, or both, because I didn't realize that I had like the one that Jen talked about for afterwards. Like I was always stuck in the let's not get started. And then when I was successful, like because I have moved through all the different levels on Zazzle, and if you want to watch another fun episode or listen to another fun episode, depending on what platform you're on, we just did one, episode number 28, where we talked about all the different pro designer levels. And when I was going through those levels, I was always like excited, but I was also like deathly scared that I could even make those, right? And then when I made one, I was always like very fearful that I was never going to make the next one, and that I wouldn't be able to prove to my family and friends that I was going to be successful. I sort of like hit my peak. And so the fear of success comes in multiple different ways, but they kind of get pulled into these two categories that we've shared already. So let us know which one or both. And also give us more detail, like, because these are real fears, and we want you to be like honored and respected for those fears because you lived them. But the key here now is that once you tell us those fears and you open up and allow you to accept your fears too, and that they're not a bad thing, they're part of the process, then now you can work on minimizing them in the future, right? Because that's what we want for you. Otherwise, you're always going to be stuck in decision or inactivity because of your fear, and that's not helpful as an online entrepreneur who needs to have the money to make their business work, or even feel the success and be empowered that you did something and build your own business, right? Instead of having to go back to a 9-to-5 job or something like that, or live off of the rest of your retirement income because it just didn't work. That's really important for you because it's going to make you feel amazing once you're not crippled by this fear. So have I done a good enough job? And just Jen, do you think we've done a good enough job of explaining the two situations?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive into what you can do about it. And don't forget, before we dive into what you can do, we really want to hear from you.
Yeah.
This is a huge topic and so personal and quiet. And you don't this is the safe space to actually talk about this, because if you don't, maybe your friends or your family are not the people that you want to talk to them about, because there's so many other things that come along with that, repercussions or feeling of shame or letting someone else down. But once you actually understand this and realize it's just a fear, and maybe the fear that you're experiencing actually is rooted in something else, or you just don't have the tools to move yourself out of that feeling, because it is a truly natural feeling. It's just you don't need to stay there all the time. And so let's pick on a couple of things that really helped us, and maybe they'll help you as well to move forward and get out of that situation.
Yeah. So the first one that you should definitely ask yourself is...
You should do is you should try, right?
What?
Sorry? The first way that we've done a lot of helped ourselves is to ask yourself a question. So I'm setting you up for it.
Gotcha. So it's to ask if this is really true. If the situation that you're imagining in your head, this fear of success, or the feelings that you're feeling, or the stories that you're creating of everything that will either go wrong for you in the future, or what will be expected of you in the future based on what you're feeling now, is it actually really true? Like, will you actually live out the things that are happening in your mind in terms of what fears you have going forward? And this is a fun little story that we heard from one of our coaches, and being in a mastermind and learning from other situations and other people who have fear of success. Is one lady told us a story about how she was really scared of being successful because of her family members. They were always very worried about money, and she felt like if she made a lot of money, then she would have have to support her family and that it would be expected of her, and she'd have all these pressures and responsibilities put on her if she showed forms of being successful. And she just got herself so worked up into an anxiety-fueled state because she was just so nervous. That's the one thing that she really wanted, was to be successful and to make money, but she also absolutely hated the fact that she could possibly be successful because she didn't want to have all that pressure and that responsibility, and she felt nervous and like butterflies or knots in your stomach or whatever you want to call it. And so she said to herself, she said, I really need to focus in on what is actually true for me and what is going to happen to me in the future. And so she said, like, is there blood? Like, has someone died? Or is there a huge gash on my, like, am I bleeding? Am I like is there a fear of my life ending? Or is it just, a situation where I have to learn how to cope with it, and I have to learn how to get the responsibilities and earn my status, or be responsible to help my family members out, or actually take on the pressures but rework them and turn them into positives and learning experiences rather than a fearful state of where I'm just paralyzed and I can't move forward. And I really resonated with that because I myself put myself into these crazy states of imagination where I'm thinking of all of these stories and things that could happen, and all of a sudden somehow we're, light years ahead in terms of things being negative, and I haven't even moved anywhere, right? And your brain can work magic on you in amazing ways, but also in very negative ways too. And so if you can just step back and say, hey, is this actually true? Like, is this really happening? Will this happen? Will there be blood? Is there someone who's actually getting hurt? And I know I made fun of that, but it's very true. Like, if no one is in like being harmed, if there's not a hurtful situation for yourself or for others, like, is this really something that's going to be hurtful for you? Yes, of course, you're going to be challenged and you're going to be pressured and you're going to be, influenced by the fact that you're making more money. So you need to be a better person, a better CEO, and a better business manager. But is it really going to be horrible for you in the future? Probably not.
Well, and I liked, like, you said the statement, but then you mentioned a whole bunch of things right away, and I think it's really important that everyone hears those. But when that example came up in that coaching session, and then the person just said, "Is there blood?" and and nothing else, they just said, "Is there blood?" And everyone in the coaching session, including us, was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Like, this person's really stressed, and there's like a lot of important stuff that she's dealing with." And it's like, "But is there blood?" And like, it's like, "Is there blood?" And it's like, "And are you insensitive?" Like, the person who was asking that, like, was just sort of just really cut everything short and down in terms of all the stuff that had been worked up about the situation. And it made me realize that, yeah, we really get into our heads. And even though it's super important to us and it does have a lot of implications and all that stuff, if you reframe it and go like, okay, so you're not bleeding or dying, then there's a way around it. There's a way to take care of it. It's just that we have to reframe it, which is really important. And that, and then how true compared to this life-threatening situation of blood. Is it? And it isn't, because then you can take the situation and put it in perspective and say, even though it's serious and it's really stressing me out and all that stuff, it's really not that serious. And that's what really got me was, okay, so if we're talking life and death, it actually doesn't matter that much. I've just made a lot out of a situation. And so it just kind of rebooted me. I don't know if that's going to help others understand that, because at first I was like, wow, that person's really insensitive. Don't they care? But then just to always have that, is there blood? And now we're kind of making a joke about it all the time, Jen and I, when we get into our own heads. And it's like, is there blood? And then we actually laughing. It's like, no, there's no blood. I guess it's not as serious as we think it is. And so hopefully you can take that away as well, as a situation that where if it's really deeply in a situation, you just go, is there blood? And that's a question, because you can also go, is it really true? But your brain's already like working on you and saying over and over again, it could be true, it's probably true, right? Whereas if you say, is there blood? That's a physical thing. It's like, no, there's no blood. Okay, I can manage this. I can get over it. I can deal with it. Just maybe not the most fun to deal with it, but I can do it. Okay. I love that. I love your description of it. It really helped. Really, I would have never done as good a description of that situation.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 2 is stay in the present. And we want you to focus on the small steps to take each day. And as we mentioned before in the situation number 1, like what can you do, is ask if it's really true, because your brain is working on you. You're creating all of these stories. You have a wild imagination. As creatives, we like to imagine things, and we like to be creative and storytell. And sometimes it can be our worst enemy. So we really want you to focus in on the present, like what's happening today that you can focus on, rather than thinking about right now in this moment, rather than thinking about, weeks or even days in the future of how horrible things can go, or what you'll be asked of, or how you'll be pressured, etc. Focus in on this moment right now, in this day, and what can you do, and focus on the little baby steps that you can try and work yourself into, and like ease into the situation, right?
Exactly. Really, really important, because you really don't have control over anything, and that's the part that we always use against us, because we think we do actually have control, but we don't have complete control. And that's why we worry in the first place, and get stressed out, and have fear about what's going to happen, whether it's success or lack of success. And so really important for you to understand that you can't do anything more than your best that you can do in the moment you're in. And then you do the next best, the same thing. You do your best in the moment you're in a couple minutes from now, and a couple hours from now. And that's the only way that you can truly be effective and the most successful in your life, let alone just in your business. And all the rest of it is just your mind playing with you and making you stop and start. And it's like, oh, maybe this or maybe that. It's like, no, right here, this moment, that's it. That's all you've got control over, is to what you do next. And so I want you to really think about that when you're in the situation. First you do, is it really true? Is there blood? And then the next thing is stay present, because that's all you have control over. And really make sure that the little mind, like the little devil on your shoulder, isn't going like, but yeah, that happened in the past, so it might happen in the future. We don't want you to bring anything that in terms of a success or a non-success into the present or future, because it'll influence what you're going to do and choices you're going to make in the present. And that, of course, definitely will affect your future. But if you come at it in terms of no matter what happened in the past, that doesn't define you, and right now your action defines you. That's the most important thing, and then that will really help you even get not even get into the fear mode. And it's happened so many times in our past where we've done that, and now we say, am I in the present? Am I making the right decision based on what's happening now, rather than what's happened in the past? And it really has affected our future in terms of and I keep saying really, but it truly, truly has. And I love that this little piece of advice has really helped us along. Okay. The third thing that you can do, and I'm looking at my notes, celebrate your wins. And I'm bad at this. I'm like right into like, okay, but what if I can't do it tomorrow? So I'm right in there. Let's do some more work. And Jen goes like, let's just celebrate for a minute, okay? And it's so important. I've learned over the years, as Jen's been sort of nagging me, as like I have to celebrate my wins, because that gives me focus and center, so that it actually erases all those past losses and allows them to be replaced by the wins, which supports then the present choice and the future occurrences and what the outcomes are. And so that's one thing that you can think about in terms of, if you're going to go into the past to see what the proof is, then if you celebrate your wins, you're going to have a lot of imprints on your mind and memory about what happened in the past. And you're going to be like, oh, I celebrated that, or I did this because I did that. And it's like, that's so much different an approach than, oh, I failed 4 years ago, I'm sure I'm going to fail again. Yeah. So what can they do to celebrate?
Well, you can treat yourself. Depending on restrictions and COVID and all of the stuff that's happened throughout the past year, obviously, I'm not going to tell you to go out for dinner or to go see a movie or to do a spa day. Depending on what you're able to do, then you can do that. But I like to treat myself in the small little ways that I like actually recognize that this time is for me and I'm going to actually recognize my accomplishments and I win. So I would have like a nice shower or do like my nails or, have a nice meal with a friend or call a friend on Zoom or do something that makes you feel good and like you actually recognize, okay, this is my time because I did this amazing thing in my business. And I like to say too that you should do it every single week. And no matter if your win is like a big win or a small win in your mind, every win is still a win. And every win means that you have like done something to accomplish something in your business. And so you want to make sure that you recognize that because as Elka said, like if you're just go all the time, at the end of the day, you're going to feel overworked and stressed. And even if you are making the money that you want to make, then you still like, you don't feel like there's a sense of accomplishment because you haven't even taken the time to actually just soak in the things that you've done and to relish in the fact that like you've done so much amazing work and now it's your time to actually just relax and breathe and take it in and celebrate those things. So I'm not going to tell you what you need to do to treat yourself, but anything within your range of possibilities that you can do at this point in time, at least.
Because we're doing this podcast while we're under lockdown and COVID.
Yeah.
But we still find ways to have fun and honor ourselves and take time and whatever's really feeling good for you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also depending, and you don't have to do like a big win celebration for any kind of win. It could be a small celebration, whether it's a big or small win, right? As long as you're always recognizing it and acknowledging it. And that's what really makes our group, the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Facebook group that we have as a private free group, so empowering because that's where you can celebrate too. If others around you don't get it, like in terms of what you're doing on your Zazzle business, you can always join this group and just even post your wins in there and we'll go like snap and celebrate you and be excited and we'll talk about you, from the two of us, we'll go like, wow, it's so great that so-and-so is doing so much better or they've just hit this other milestone. And even if we're like not physically like talking to you, then the energy is out there that people are with you and are celebrating with you and we're so excited for you. And so even that could be a small thing that you do is to honor yourself enough to tell others so that they can also respect and celebrate with you, which is really important. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what about another option? Like in terms of celebrating your wins, we also have another thing listed here. We have a suggestion for you, not just posting in the Facebook group, because that's the tell others part. I think you should definitely, if people understand and can really understand what that win was, then tell them personally, like your family, friends, whatever. But a lot of people that we've come across who are seeking our help in our courses have found that there's not that much excitement or enthusiasm about what you're doing on the Zazzle platform because they don't get it. And that's totally fine. They still love you, you still love them. The most important thing though is that they can't feel the same excitement because they haven't been there themselves. And so that's why that creative and ambitious entrepreneur Facebook group is really a great place to be. But we want to also do something where you can look back, so like a time capsule, and that would be creating a win journal. So buy a nice journal that you really love and like the cover of, and you want to actually like write in it every day and write down some wins and date it obviously, and then depending on whether it's like an earnings win or you actually cracked open your computer today win, or you have your work time for Zazzle scheduled and you actually made it and worked the whole time. You didn't get distracted from doing something else like YouTube and Instagram, then that's a win too, as much as an earnings or a life goal achievement is. And so try that. Do you have any more instructions on the journal?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So that's our tips for you. So ask if it's really true, stay in the present, and celebrate your wins in multiple different ways. We've given you some background and some tasks to do and ways to do those 3 things. So hopefully those are helpful for you. And the fourth, which is an extra bonus one, is tell us about it. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us if you've had those fears and what is it that out of these 3 that's really helped you, so that you can tell us a little, like we'll acknowledge it for you, because you're on this journey and this has been a really, really, really real fear for you, but it doesn't have to be. And we want you to tell us how you've locked that in the past, and then the future is bright and you are going to be able to function in the present in order to really shine as a creative and be who you're supposed to be, and allow everything that's good about you to come forward and be recognized for that and to be rewarded for that, whether that's through changing how you look at your life and so you feel better, or if you want to, monetary, and anything else that you have that's on your list of how you would feel like okay with this world and be happy, rather than being fearful of success or lack of success.
So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.